Alright, what's up everybody? We are going to continue the lesson from yesterday, or I guess go back over the lesson from yesterday in which we showed you how to do some background stuff. Just going to show you a bunch of different ways to do this so that you can make, you know, whatever background that you want, and this could be used for Quaker Vision, it could be used for, I don't know, just a random recording that you're making or whatever. So first of all, go into After Effects, new file. I didn't even label mine. You can label yours whatever. If you're doing it for Quaker Vision, you can do it the title of your segment, whatever. So new project in After Effects, and then go down here to create a new composition. Click on that. Make sure it's 1920 by 1080. Make sure the aspect ratio is locked. And you can call it, I don't know, background, or again, if you're doing it for Quaker Vision, the show's name, whatever. Doesn't matter what color it is, because we're going to put a solid over top of that. Alright, so I'm going to hit OK. There's my background. Now what I want to do is add a shape layer. I can do that a couple different ways. If I go up to Layer and then hit New and go to Shape Layer, or I'm just going to double click on this rectangle tool. If I clicked and held down, it gives me some different shapes to use there. I'm just going to use a rectangle for now. So we double click on this rectangle and it gives me this solid red rectangle. I don't want this to be a solid color, so I'm going to change that. Now under the Tools window, by the way, if you can't see your Tools window, you go up here to Window, find Tools, and make sure it's checked. And then you can move that window around to wherever you want. If you click and hold on the word Tools, you can put it over here, but this is right where I want it. Now, I can't see all of the items for Tools, so if yours looks like this, you want to hover your mouse right over this line between the composition and the Tools window, click and drag it down. Just reveals a couple more options there. And so now, instead of just clicking on the color and changing the color, I want to click on the word Fill. So I click there, and now I'm given a couple fill options. I can have no fill at all, no background, a solid color, a linear gradient, or a radial gradient. I want to choose radial gradient. Linear is just going to be a line in the middle, and it's going to go from light to dark or dark to light. Radial is that circle in the middle, and it's kind of going to gradually go out to a lighter color or a darker color. So I want radial gradient. Click OK. Now, if I look down here in this composition panel, I can see I have a shape layer 1, and we can just click and hit Enter and change that to background. Just so we keep everything organized here. And you can see we have a white circle and a black background behind it. That's not what we want. So we're going to change the parameters here. So under background layer, I'm going to open up contents, and under contents, one of the things there is gradient fill 1. So yours might look like that. So I'm going to open up that and scroll down until I see colors, and I'm just going to click on Edit Gradient. And now here it's going from this white color to this black color. So from white to black, we don't want that. So just choose a color. I'm going to choose, I don't know, like this aqua color. And on the left side, you want it to be the lighter shade of that color, and then on the right side, the darker shade of that color. You can make it two different colors. It might look strange, but so here I'm going to double click on this square here, or just click once on this square. Go back to this aqua color, and we'll make this light. And then over here, I'm click on this square, try and find that aqua color and make it like a darker version of it. And then I'm going to click OK. So now I have that light aqua color here in this little circle, and the rest of it is that darker aqua color. So now we want to make this a more gradual change, just from this little circle to this whole big area. So what you want to do, there's a handle here that you can click on at the edge of this circle. Click and drag it out. Click, hold, and drag it out to the side. Now we have a more gradual color change. And that's good. We can click off of that. That's our background. We're good with it. So I can just close up all of these folders. We're done with our background. All right, now on top of that, I'm going to put another shape layer. So again, if I just double click on the rectangle tool, by default it's going into the gradient fill. This time I don't want it to be gradient fill, so I go back, click on fill. We're going to make it a solid color and click OK, and then I want to change that color. So now I can click on the red and I'm just going to change it to white. You can change it to whatever color you want. Alright, now I want to make this into a short or a really thin line. So under contents, every layer that you have is going to have this contents folder and a transform layer. So under contents, I want to go under rectangle 1 and under rectangle path 1. I'm going to open that up, and then where it says size, right now if I change the size, it's going to change horizontally and vertically at the same rate. It's going to shrink it from left to right and top to bottom. I don't want that, so I'll just hit Control Z. I'm going to click this constrain properties link here, so now I can control the vertical and horizontal separately. And I want to change the horizontal here, so click on that, and I'm going to make it, let's say 1, and hit enter. Alright, and I'm left with that line there. Why is it black? Oh, because we have a stroke on it. We don't need a stroke. There we go, now it's white. So if I have the stroke on, this is like the outline of the shape. Here's the fill color of the shape, here's the outline of the shape. I think I can change it to none. Yeah, so if I click on stroke, I can just say no stroke, and that's going to make it really skinny. You can see there it's a little bit skinnier, but it's all white, and that's what we want. I might make that a little bit thicker actually, so let's click down here and change it to 2. That's good. Alright, now what I want to do is repeat this. So I could just do the same thing a bunch of different times, but that would take a long time. I could just keep adding shape layer, adding shape layer. An easy way to do this, if I close up all this stuff, is right here underneath the shape layer. There's a thing here called add. I'm just going to click on this triangle to bring up more options and select the repeater option. Okay, and by default it's going to make 3 copies of it. Alright, so now to change this, if I want to make more copies or if I want to bring these closer together, I need to go into the repeater settings. So under repeater 1, open that up, and if I scroll down, you know what, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so I can see more here. Under transform, repeater 1, if I go under position, if I drag that left to right, I can bring it closer together, farther apart. Here I'm going to make it a little bit closer. That's good. And now by default, like I said, it made 3 copies of it. Let's say I want to make, I don't know, 50 copies. Okay, so now, right now it's just repeated, since the very first line was right in the middle, it's just repeated it off to the right. So what we can do to bring this over the entire screen, I can close up the repeater folder, I guess I'll call it, and under transform, now I want to transform the layer, right, because this is the whole layer. So under transform, under shape layer 1, and let's just rename this to keep it organized. So if I click on shape layer 1, hit enter, and let's call it lines. Good. Under transform and under position, if I move that to the left, the first one here, see, this would bring it up and down. I don't want to mess with that. I just want to do the horizontal position, bring that over to the left. There we go. So that looks pretty good. It's definitely lines. You can just definitely tell that it's lines on top of a shape. So we don't want it to look like that. So what we can do the first thing we can do, let's change this so it's not straight up and down, because that looks cool, but we can make it look a little bit better. So under, let's see, rectangle 1 maybe, and then under transform rectangle 1, yeah, we have skew option, and we can skew the lines. So if I click and drag it out to the right, and you can see I'm going to need more lines because this is the end of it. I need more lines out here. So I'm going to close that up, go back to repeater 1, and I'm going to make more copies. Let's make, I don't know, 74. I can close that back up and then go back under transform for the whole lines layer, and position, we'll move it, we'll keep moving it back until it takes up the whole screen. There we go. Okay, so now that's just one quick easy background. To make it look a little bit better, under the lines, this layer, if we want to add, make the layer add, we go under mode, and if you don't have this up, you can just right click on that layer and go to blending mode. But if you have this up, I'm just going to go to add, and then I'm going to drop the opacity down. And right now you can see these don't look like very straight lines. That's because I'm looking at it 1/4 definition. So if I want to make that full, now we can see they're straight lines. But when you do that, the more stuff you put into a composition, the slower it might load. So I'm just going to keep this at 1/3. Alright, and then under transform, I'm going to drop the opacity down to like 30. There we go. So there's a layer or a background that looks pretty cool. If I want to make a new layer, maybe I want to make different shapes or something, I can just go up here and click on comp 1, hit Control D to duplicate, and then double click on comp 2. So now you see I have comp 1, comp 2, they're exactly the same. I've duplicated them. But if I go into the lines and under contents, I want to get rid of the rectangle because we don't want to make it a rectangle anymore. Click on rectangle, backspace to delete. Let's make a different color. So if I hit Control and apostrophe at the same time, it'll bring up this grid. And then I want to make sure that I can snap things to this grid. So under View up here, click on View, Snap to Grid. And then I can choose the pen tool up here. And let's make, okay, so the fill is white. Let's make the stroke white. And the fill, we don't want to fill. So I'm going to change fill to none. Okay, now I have the pen tool selected, and if I just draw, make a point here, make a point here, make a point here, you can see it's repeating because I still have repeater on. So if I go into repeater and delete it, and then if I have the direct selection tool here, I can take these points, shoot, let me undo this. Let me just start from scratch, get rid of repeater, pen tool, boom, boom, boom. And now while the pen tool is selected, I can hover over this point until it's a black arrow instead of the pen, and then I can just snap that to that corner. This looks like it's snapped here and there. Okay, we're good. Now I can make this a little bit thicker. This is right now it's at 2 pixels. If I want to make it thicker, there's 9 pixels. Alright, and then I make sure I choose my direct selection tool again. I can get rid of the grid now. Hit Control apostrophe. Click off, and I'm left with that. Oh, okay, good. And it's still on add now, so I've already changed it, and I've changed the opacity. That's still the same because I duplicated the layer, so the opacity is at 29%, and this screen mode's on add. So now if I wanted to repeat that, add the repeater, and open up repeater 1, and let's go down to transform repeater 1 and go to position, and just drag these out a little bit until it's like that. And then if I want to make a bunch more copies, like 31. Alright, now I need to move this, so I go to transform under the layer, not under repeater 1, transform, position, move that over and up. Okay, now I can put another repeater on this, so I can repeat the repeater, I guess. So again, here under add, I go under add and hit repeater, and again by default it's going to make 2 copies of it. And that looks pretty cool, but if I didn't want it to look like that, I could go under repeater 2, transform repeater 2, position, move them down, move them over, something like that. I can make them closer together now. Alright, and then if I wanted to make a bunch more copies, there you go. And let's see if I move them, whoops. So if I close up repeater 2, go to transform for the lines layer and move that up. There we go. And I can even rotate it if I wanted to. Bring it down. Wonder if I change the scale. There we go. I don't know. You can mess around with it. I think I kind of like it better just like that. Alright, I'll show you one more here. So we have that one. I'm going to make another copy of this comp, so I will hit Control D to duplicate. Whoops. Make sure comp 2 is selected, Control D, duplicate, double click on comp 3, and we'll get rid of this shape. So shape 1 I can get rid of, repeater 1 I can get rid of, repeater 2 I can get rid of. We still have it on add, the screen mode on add, and the opacity still dropped down 29%. So now let's see, let's say I want to add a circle. So I'm going to add this circle here, and I'm going to make the fill, we'll leave the fill for that one at nothing. So fill, no fill, and the stroke, we want it to be a solid color. Okay, there we go. And then I want to make another circle. This time I want to fill it in. Okay, that looks good. If I move that over. Alright. Now, let's see here. I have... So we have 2 shapes there. So I'm going to call this... this lines I want to call no fill circle, just so I keep this straight. And then this one I want to call fill circle. It's good. Now if I select both of these layers at the same time by clicking on it, hitting shift, holding down shift and clicking on the other layer, right click, I can pre-compose this into one layer. I'll call this circles and hit OK. And now I want to, can't add there. I know what I need to do. I'm going to get rid of this circle. And under this layer, while this layer is highlighted, I'm going to drop in another circle. There we go. Now I have two circles on the same layer. I don't need two different layers. So now this circle, ellipse 2, I want this to be fill color white. Perfect. And the opacity is still changed so you can see through it a little bit. So now if I hit add on this layer and go to repeater and then open up that repeater and go down to transform repeater 1, I can move this. Whoops, that was scale. I can change the position of it there. Cool. And then maybe make some more copies. And then close that up. Go to transform under that layer and position. Let's move it over and up. And then we can repeat that repeater. Repeat. And go into repeater 2 and transform repeater 2, and under position bring it down and over. Maybe we offset it there, and then make a bunch more copies, and there you go. So there you go. There's a couple of different ways you can make background, and then we can add a layer here, new layer text, and we could say, I don't know, Studio 203. And real quick, we can change how big that is, and we can change it to something cool like impact. I always use impact. I don't know why. We can change the color from black to white. Let's see what that looks like. We can, oops. We can have, we can align it, center it up. Maybe put a stroke effect on it so that there's an outline. I don't know. That looks horrible. And then we can animate that text layer. So we go down here, text, transform, scale. Let's start at 0. Click the stopwatch, move it out to like there. Here, 1 second. Make it a little bit bigger than 100%. So like, I don't know, 113. Go a couple more frames. Like 1, 2, 3, 4 frames. Bring it down to less than 100. So like 92, 91. Go a couple more frames. And then make it 100%. And then if we play that back, it has like a bounce effect, and it's a little too slow. So if I highlight all those keyframes, drag them over, and start, still a little bit too slow, move them over here. There you go. All right, so there's some quick, easy ways to make some backgrounds. You can mess around with the color, the shapes, the text, however you want to do that. Just make a background, have some text on top of it, animate it, and then you can bring that into Premiere and put some sound with it. All right, peace.